Rabbit, welcome to February 1st, though the comics came out yesterday, January 31st, and today I'm doing the comic haul. This is Dylan Lang, the first comic haul of February for books that came out in January, so whatever. It's an interesting week. Tomorrow is Groundhog Day, and yesterday was the super blue blood moon. That's all done and over with, and thank God January's over because it was the longest month ever. So, but that doesn't matter. Right now, we're here to talk about comics. It is a fifth week, but there are surprisingly a lot amount of books out this week. For those who don't know what a fifth week is, and here's the haul for this week. Fifth week is when there's 5 weeks, obviously, in a month. The comic companies, they spread out their books a little thinner because they had the fifth week. But a lot of time, the fifth week is usually they release annuals or specials or start big events or whatever. So you get a lot of that stuff. So it gets to be quite pricey, and this week's was no different. And again, I need to start changing because I have too much money invested in this. But right now, we're not going to talk about that right now. Right now, we're going to talk about comics. As always, I'll start with DC first, then Marvel, then Independence. First up is continuing with the New Age of Heroes. Damage came out a couple weeks ago. Silencer is out this week. It's written by Dan Abnett with art by John Romita Jr. Art look, as always, is pretty nice. It's got the gatefold cover type of thing going on. Part of all the creations are there, and the new covers here. But it's interesting to have a black female lead, which is good in this era of new tolerance. So it's good to see it. And John Romita Jr., even though he's been doing this artwork for years, decades actually, it still looks pretty nice. And Dan Abnett's Dan Abnett, so we'll take a look at it. Whereas Damage was kind of a Hulk ripoff with nice Tony Daniel artwork, this looks like it might be a little bit better. My comic book store owner read it, and he's kind of liked this a lot, so we'll see what happens. So Silencer #1 is out this week. So if you're interested in going to your first comic book store or checking out the comic book store that you haven't checked out in a while, and want to get some stuff, this is a #1. It sure is. So next up, we have issue #5 of Metal. Now, when the original schedule for Metal came out, issue 6 was going to be out on February 14th, and it was going to end then. However, reading it to the end of this, they're actually going to be releasing another one-shot. This one's called Dark Knights Rising, The Wild Hunt, and then March is when the conclusion happens. So now they've moved to another month because they've added this other thing. But this is the variant cover. This is like there's only like 3 copies left in my store. It's written by Scott Snyder with art by Greg Capullo. I've been reading it, and it's, to be honest, it's just okay. And, it is kind of epic, and you get kind of the Green Lantern, not Green Lantern, you get the Justice League involved, and Martian Manhunter's one of my favorite characters, and there's Hawkman's coming back, and there's all kind of weird mysticism and stuff like that, and strange Batmans and stuff like that. So, and a lot of people are saying this is like Wonder Woman's story. So I guess this issue clears it up a little bit. So we'll see. It's been interesting. DC's been kind of hit or miss with their big crossover things, so we'll see what happens. So it's nice looking artwork. I mean, Greg Capullo, you can't go wrong with that. And Metal's it's just been an interesting series, but nothing stellar, to be honest. But that's just me. Next up, we have Harley Quinn #36. Yeah, I know. I said I was going to stop it, but I just can't quit you, Harley. And we'll see, particularly with Amanda Connor cover still coming out. So we'll see what happens. Frank Thierry writer, Aniki Miranda art, and you have Harley Quinn teaming up with Man Bat, and you get Harley Bat, and then we get a little bit of view of the Penguin coming up. So. See what happens, but I just can't quit you, Harley. So we'll see what happens. Frank Thierry always had a soft spot for the Penguin anyway, so he likes writing him. Now we get into the annual portion of our 5th week series. This is probably the most important annual this week. It is Flash Annual #1. This sets up the massive Flash War storyline that Joshua Williamson will be writing in the Flash books coming up this full summer. So you might want to pick this up. So Joshua Williamson writes this, art by Howard Porter. It's a refocus on Wally. We haven't really focused on Wally that much since his return, unless you've read the New Titans. So there's all kinds of weird stuff going on with Wally right now. So we will see what happens. So if you're a Flash fan, it's great, and you might want to just check it out because it is the beginning, the setup of the new of the Flash War story that's going to be coming up. So we'll see what happens. And then we get some futuristic. It looks like the Rogues, but they're not actually the Rogues, so it's pretty interesting. And we get a surprise villain at the end, which again is slowly becoming like the Flash's Joker, and it's just sort of like, okay. But check it out. Flash Wars is coming up, and that's a good place to start. Deathstroke Annual #1. Got a great pedigree. Christopher Priest is fantastic, but you also get Denny Cohen and Bill Sienkiewicz artwork together, and you kind of love that, and you also get an appearance from Power Girl. It hasn't really been seen all that much. So Priest continues his fantastic run on Deathstroke, and I had forgotten that, and Larry Hama did breakdowns also. I had forgotten that Christopher Priest also wrote some Black Panther, and I might have to go dig those up because this has been excellent, and Black Panther coming up in a couple weeks, so we'll see what happens. So Deathstroke Annual #1 is out this week as well. And the last of the annuals that came out this week is Detective Comics Annual #1, featuring how Clayface came to join his team and sort of his year one sort of story about Clayface. James Tynion seems to have a really soft spot for Clayface because he's been focusing on him and Detective. And Eddie Burroughs is the regular artist on Detective, so he's also taken over as the artist on this annual as well. And Eber Ferreira is on inks, so get a little bit of Clayface's history, a little bit of origin story, and and then yes, Batman does appear in it. It is a Clayface story though, that is connected to the detective stuff and how Clayface became a part of his group. So there you go. Also out this week is this one I'm still upset about because there's no reason that this book should be $5.99, but it is Mystic U #2. It's a 3-issue miniseries, I think, that comes out bi-monthly. But I like it because it focuses on Zatanna. And basically it's a Harry Potter story, but with Zatanna and more grown-up magicians and stuff like that. If it was $5.99, I'd be happier if it was square bound, but it's not. It's just a regular comic. The reason why it's $5.99 is because there's no commercials, or I'm sorry, advertising in it. It's written by Elisa Quitney with art by Mike Norton, but there is no ads, so that's why it costs $5.99. So, but it's still good. As always, I have a soft spot for the supernatural aspects of the DC universe, and to basically create kind of like a Harry Potter Hogwarts type of school for the Mystics is an interesting take, I suppose. But it is the second issue of Mystic U #2. So there we go. And here's where we come to the special portion of this. I was looking at this, and it's a really weird special, and it's part of a bunch of them. Young Animal is teaming up with DC in Milk Wars. The first issue of which is Justice League America and Doom Patrol with a great Frank Quitely cover. It's written by Gerard Way and Steve Orlando with art by Aiko. And to be honest, I was looking through it. I didn't see any Justice League or here's Doom Patrol. But it's, you get a bizarre sort of, story out of Doom Patrol, and then you get the Community League of Rhode Island, which is, I've been to Rhode Island. It's gorgeous. That's kind of funny. So And it looks more like to be honest, more like a Doom Patrol story than a Justice League story, because I really don't see any Justice League characters in it. So I don't know. We'll hear a little bit of Justice League stuff, but come on, man, really. So it's another one of those weird sort of storylines. There's Justice League finally. So it's continuing. There's going to be a whole bunch of them coming up. There's Mother Panic, Batman, Shade Changing Girl, Wonder Woman, and Cave Carson, and with Swamp Thing. And I think they're going to be teamed up again. Doom Patrol, Justice League is going to wrap up the specials. So we'll see. From Vertigo, we have Astro City number 50. I've been informed that Astro City will be can't be canceled as of issue 52, and then they're going to be into a graphic novel type of thing. This is one of the best stories ever written, and I highly recommend, if you do go to comic book store for the first time, besides buying number one, stuff like that, pick up some trades. Any Astro City trades would be fantastic. It's written by Kurt Busiek with art by Brent Anderson, with cover by Alex Ross. So Brett Anderson is the usual artist on Astro City, but because he's a little bit older and he takes longer to do, and Kurt Busiek wanted to make it a a monthly book, which he's done. That's never been delayed. He's had guest artists come in, and it's looked good. So Astro City number 50, 2 more issues, and then it's gone. And then they're going to do a graphic novel, I think, and so do some more stuff. But definitely, if you're a new comic book reader or interested in comic books, Astro City is probably one of the first trades I would send you to read, because it is absolutely great, and it's a little bit different than your usual superhero stuff. Even though it is superhero stuff, there's other stuff to it as well. That's it for DC. Up for Marvel, we have, for my wife, Captain Marvel number 128. Continuing their legacy storyline, written by Margaret Stoll with art by Michelle Bandini. This book is probably going to skyrocket next year, because they are currently working on the Captain Marvel movie that's going to come out next year. So coming out in March of next year. So we got a little bit over a year left before it comes out, but they are working on it right now, and well worth looking into. And I guess appears by Guardians of the Galaxy as well, as part of their renaissance with their movie as well. Next up, we have Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows number 15, which is a alternate reality where Spider-Man and Mary Jane are still married, and they have a kid, and then they all have powers, kind of. Spider-Man and his daughter still have powers, and Mary Jane has a Venom symbiote. Jody Houser's writer, art by Nick Roach. So we'll look at the life of the young daughter of Spider-Man and Mary Jane, and the family working together to take them out. So, and it's definitely a really interesting take on Spider-Man, and is a lot of fun. And the fact that he has a family like Batman does, and it's his literal family, it's fantastic. So we will continue with that, and it's fun to see. Alternate reality stuff is always good as well. Next issue that comes out on Valentine's Day. Again, this one is on the precipice of being canceled, but we'll see. For me, I mean, not canceled, but for me, first stop collecting it, the Scarlet Spider number 13. I collected originally because Peter David was working with Mark Bagley, but Mark Bagley has disappeared, and Will Sliney, who's a good artist, is on it, but I want it really for Mark Bagley and Peter David, but I've never really been that interested in the character of the Scarlet Spider. So we'll see. I still haven't really read any of the issues yet, but I'm still getting it because it's Peter David, and so maybe Bagley would come back eventually, but I don't think he is. So we'll see. That might be on the way out as well. We'll see. Moon Knight number 191. Continuing this one. This is written by Max Bemis with art by Jason Burrows and art by Guillermo Ortega. So Moon Knight's Moon Knight. You always got to have a good Moon Knight series out there, and this one is looking pretty good. So, Jason Burrows has a pretty distinct art style as well. And finally, from the Star Wars area of Marvel is another special for 5th week. Based, if you seen Last Jedi, you'll recognize this character in a second. If you haven't, this is a character that shows up in The Last Jedi, and you probably want to watch that movie before you read this. This is DJ Most Wanted, featuring the character played by his name is escaping me right now. It's written by Ben Acker and Ben Blacker, with art by Kevin Walker and inks by Mark Deering. I just had it, but I can't think right now. But it's his character. I just had it. Guillermo. No, not Guillermo. But it's one shot about his character, and we learn more about it. I can't believe I'm blanking on that right now. It'll probably come to me. So, the Star Wars books are really good. It's a one shot special, so check it out. Speaking of Star Wars, Force of Destiny, the final IDW Forces of Destiny series storyline, Rose and Page, also from The Last Jedi, is in this. It's written by Delilah S. Dawson with art by Nicoletta Balderi. So kind of a cartoony type of style to it, but a story about sisters who appear in The Last Jedi. And that's it for Marvel. For Independence, Hack Slash Resurrection. I continue to love Hack Slash, always have. And it's good to see new series. It's written by Teenie Howard with art by Sealor. Definitely not for definitely not for children, I should say. Violence, sex, fun stuff like that. I'm just gonna look at that picture a second. But I don't look at that anymore. So some interesting stuff going on, but definitely a pretty good series. Next up, we have Animosity number 12. Marguerite Bennett, Raphael de la Torre. Story is the animals. At 1 second, all the animals can start to talk and think and stuff like that, and then they slowly take over the world. And now it's a survival of the fittest story. So it's a good book. Dark Arc number 5. This is the last issue until May. This is the first story arc, and then we'll do the second story arc in May. The premise behind this is not totally hypothetical. Everyone knows about Noah's Ark, but what if Satan reached out to somebody because he knew that God was going to flood the earth, and he had someone build an ark and filled it with dark people like demons and monsters and stuff like that, vampires. Well, this is what the story's about. It's written by Cullen Bunn with art by Juan Doe. So, a different take on the religious story, and it's actually really one of those ideas that I wish I would have come up with. So, really good. And finally, we have Dread Gods number 3, Ron Mars, Tom Rainey. I've always liked both those characters, and the two of them, Bart Sears and Mark Bright. Well, not Mark Bright, is Christopher Priest, and other people as well have all have this little group they've got coming together now, Ominous Press, where they're releasing books through IDW. So that's it for the comic haul. I didn't really, no covers really stuck out to me this week, so let me just see if I can find a quick cover of the week for me. I mean, none really are jumping out at me as being spectacular. I think I have my decision, though. I'm just going to double check and be sure. Yep. So the one that I'm going to choose this week is Frank Whiteley cover, just because it's so bizarre to Justice League of America Doom Patrol with like a suburban milkman. So nice, easy, simple cover. So that's my cover of the week. So that's it for the 5th week books. These are just the books that I bought. There are other ones, not many this week because not a lot of companies release books during their 5th week time. So you'll see a lot more shooting out next week. Swamp Thing's winter special was supposed to come out this week as well, but there was an issue with the printing. It's coming out next week, which is a shame. It would have been perfect to come out this week, but it'll be out next week still, and it's going to be a lovely book written by Tom King, and also features Len Wein's last Swamp Thing story. So good stuff on that. So that's it for January's comic books. February's coming rolling in. I'm going to tease something now. I do another show called Dylan Knows. This episode, my newest episode, is on Saturday. This Saturday night. It's usually going to be on Sunday. It's usually on Super Bowl Sunday, where me and my co-host MJ Khan, we discuss the Super Bowl. It's Man Day 3, and also comic news. There's a huge amount of comic news just hit today, including we have a date for Batman and Catwoman's wedding. Come watch the show. I'll let you know when that is. This is breaking news when I just started doing this. Stan Lee has been rushed to the hospital with heart palpitations, so hopefully he'll fight through that and be okay. Black Panther, of course, stuff like that. All kinds of stuff going on, including the story that disgruntled DC movie fans are thinking about going into Rotten Tomatoes and trashing the movie so that the Rotten Tomatoes scale goes down. Because a lot of people, believe it or not, they go by the Rotten Tomatoes scale, which is really stupid, to be honest. But that's just me. Because I thought Star Wars The Last Jedi was fantastic, and everybody's like, it's the worst reviewed movie of all time, of Star Wars movie of all time. So I don't really trust the Rotten Tomatoes anyway, so because I enjoyed Last Jedi. So on that note, go to your local comic book store, buy some of those new books, buy some trades, particularly Astro City. Pick up some Rachel Rising, Strangers in Paradise as well. Hack Slash, any of the Star Wars trades are good. I still haven't read the Darth Vader Omnibus, which is I'm dying to read. I did pick up a Black Panther complete collection of Reginald Hudlin's stories, the first part of it, which ends with Storm and Black Panther getting married. So anxious to read that because I sort of lost interest in the book after a while, but I'm getting it back because of the movie coming up. So Saturday, Dylan Knows Comics with MJ Khan. We'll also be discussing the Super Bowl in our Man Day show we always do. Good little comic book store. Maybe your little comic store is going to be doing some specials for this weekend. Mine isn't this weekend, but yours might. And also, if not, just go into your local comic book store. Just check it out. See what's new, anything interesting catch your attention, pick up some trades, pick up some new comics, and do that. If you don't know where your local comic book store is, go to your search engine, type in Comic Shop Locator Service, and it'll give you, and then click on the site that it brings up. You go to their site, the Comic Shop Locator Services site, type in your zip code, and it'll give you all the comic books within a 20-mile radius, comic book stores of your 20-mile radius of your house. So you can go and make your decisions there. All right, I will see you all later. Have fun and read comics.